I'm making a start on the under petticoat for my sack dress. I'm just using a plain cotton. You can use whatever you like. You basically need to start off by cutting two rectangle shapes based on the following measurements. Okay, now Mum is just going to just sort of pretend that she's measuring me. So the measurements you'll see in a moment are actually my measurements. So just for reference purposes, we've put the pocket hoops on a dummy, but you will need to put them on yourself and have somebody measure it for you. That's the important part. You cannot measure this by yourself. You need somebody else to do it. So first of all, you get your front measurement. So you'd measure from your waist all the way to the floor. So that's the first part. So then you write that down, what that measurement is, on a piece of paper. Then take the side measurements from the waist over the hoops at the widest point to the bottom, and then around the back. Again, you'd measure from the waist to the floor. Don't forget, it could be an important thing to put the shoes on that you'll be wearing with your outfit, as this will add height to you as well. Okay, those measurements that were taken on me came to front 97 centimetres, back 98 centimetres, and the sides were 1 metre 9 centimetres. Next, you need to take your measurement from the floor, how high you want your hem to be, or to finish I should say, sorry. So on me it was about 18 centimetres, which is 7 inches, so that's where I wanted it to finish on me. Next you need to take that measurement up from the floor, which was 18 centimetres, and you need to minus 18 from that front measurement. You've now got 79 centimetres. Next, on the back one, we need to take 18 off that, so we're now left with 80. Same for the sides, 18 centimetres off 109 is now 91 centimetres. You then need to add just a little bit extra for your hem for your turn-up. So I've gone for 2 centimetres. Okay, so I'm allowing 2 centimetres for a hem turn-up, so we've now got 81 centimetres, 82 centimetres, 93. My final measurements. You need to work out how wide, as in lengthwise, you need your fabric to be. I've gone for 65 inches wide, about 165 centimetres all the way along. Bear in mind you'll either be gathering or pleating. I'm going to do pleating, but the best way to go about it would be to have the pocket hoops still on and have somebody measure lengthwise and then add more obviously for the pleating or gathering. Also, when you cut your front and back panels out, you need to obviously take the longest measurements, which will be your sides from waist to floor. So that will be the 93 centimetres that we have ended up with on the measurement chart just shown. So make sure you cut your piece lengthwise, as in height wise, to the longest measurement. We need to find the halfway point around the top edge. So the easiest way, just fold your fabric in half and mark with a pencil or a pin. Okay, now revert back to your measurement chart. Get that final front measurement figure and take it away from the side measurement figure. So we've got the side and the front, so the difference is 12 centimetres. Next we need to find the halfway point around the top edge. So the easiest way, just fold your fabric in half and mark with a pencil or a pin. Okay, now revert back to your measurement chart, get that final front measurement figure and take it away from the side measurement figure. So we've got the side and the front, so the difference is 12 centimetres. Next I will take this 12 centimetre measurement, and from that centre point that I marked on the fabric earlier, I will draw a mark at 12 centimetres down from the top. I'm just using this diagram to save doing it on my own piece of fabric. So then just put a mark there. You will then draw a slight curve. It might start off as a V shape, but I'd draw it more into a curve each side of the front. You also repeat this process for the back panel as well. Just bear in mind again that these are my measurements. Yours will be different if you're higher or shorter. Okay, from where I put that 12 centimetre mark, I've now drawn a line all the way up to the top corner on each side, and I've cut out my shape. Now we need to create 2 false seams out of the sheet, so you're basically separating it into 3 panels, sections. I've taken the measurements along the bottom. I'm doing it in centimetres. Mine is just over, well, I call it 166, so 1 metre 66. You need to divide that into 3. So that would make mine approximately 55.3 centimetres. So I'm just going to put a mark there. And now I've done the same on the other side. I've marked 55.3 centimetres and put a mark. I do the same at the top as well. Okay, so now what I'm doing is, you've got your piece here. Now ignore this line, this is your centre. You need to split this up into 3 equal parts as with the measurements earlier. What I'm going to do is create false seams. You could create proper seams by cutting it right up, but then you will need to make it just slightly longer this way to allow for extra seam allowance. I'm just doing tiny seams on mine, and I'll do the same on the back as well. You can now see I've created 2 seams, splitting this into 3 panels. I'll just show you my seam. So this is what is meant by a false seam, is when you're not actually joining 2 separate pieces. We're now going to start working on pleating our petticoat. I've put it on the table to help make sure that we keep a straight edge as we go along. I've also marked the centre point of the whole piece. So you can see here, this is the top edge. I've then gone and marked in pencil little 1 inch marks as a guide. We went through some trial and error first before I was able to actually show you how to do this, but you will need to take your waist measurement with your stays on first and your pocket hoops to absolutely make sure that everything is going to match up. Now my waist is 24 inches once I put the stays on, so we've got to manage to gather that amount or pleat that amount into 6 inches each side, so each half will be 12 inches to make up to the 24. Okay, as my waist is so tiny, we have to fit an awful lot in here, so you've got your centre mark, you mark 5 centimetres out from each side, and then on that mark you're then pinching it, and we need to go over 6 inches. So where those little 1 inch marks are, we need to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we pleat it on the 6th mark, like so. Also, don't follow your pleats around with the curve. You need to try and keep it as if you're working on the straight. So you can just see here now, that was beyond the 6th point for 6 inches.
Are you filming or?
Okay, so we do the same again. We go 1 inch ahead, take your mark, then count 6 inch marks to the next one. Your waist might be a bit bigger than mine, so your pleats won't have to be so big. Now we'll just carry on like this until we get to the end. Okay, when you get to the end, you want to remember that you need to leave probably at least ½ centimetre seam allowance, because about 10 to 12 inches of this is going to be open for your pockets, for your slits, and the rest will be seamed up. So your last pleat might be bigger or smaller than the rest of your pleats. You just adjust it to fit, but remember to leave that edge. Conveniently, I've got a selvage edge on this fabric, so that's all turned over neatly for me. So that was quite handy, but the other side I'll have to turn an edge to hem it up and make it look neat. Okay, I've now pinned all my pleats in place. I was going to say my pleats, or whatever. Okay, I've now pinned all my pleats in place. Next thing I'm going to do is just run a basting stitch along to hold them all in. I might just keep 1 or 2 pins in place anyway, but it's looking pretty good. We're now pleating the back section, and to do the back we are pleating inwards, so the opposite to what we've just done. Again, I've got my centre point just here, and we'll bring in the pleats this way towards the back from each side. So again, I've got to count 6 inches for every pleat for me. And we are creating a little box pleat in the middle. Then again we'll count another 6 inches. Until we reach the end. Okay, so I've now pleated my front and my back. Both sides I've sewn some stitching in to hold the pleats in place. I've now sewn up both side seams and left a 10-inch gap at the top. Now, to work out how big my hole was going to be for my pockets, I actually put this over my pocket hoops to help determine how big that's got to be. I did try 12 inches, but that was too long, so I've gone for a 10-inch gap, and I've hemmed the edges up the same way that I did the hem on the pocket hoops. I've done this by hand, Could have done it by machine, but you really need to reinforce this bit here so that it doesn't tear into the seam. On my pocket hoops, you notice I did a fill-in piece as well. I'm not sure if I will bother with that on here. I've just gone over it quite a few times to make sure it stays in place. So I've done. Now the other side already had a selvage edge on it, so I've cheated a bit and just left that. But there's no need to turn that in because it's already nice and neat. Next I'm going to work on my waistband. I'm now making my waistband. I've made it approximately 8.5 centimetres wide. There we go, sorry, I forgot my tape measure to show you, so it's 8.5 centimetres. Next you need to measure how wide your skirt is. Mine comes to 34, and on your waistband you'll need another 1.5 centimetre seam allowance. So roughly I'm cutting mine to, what was it, about 37 centimetres. So it would be a lot longer to allow for your turnover. Next I've ironed a crease down the centre of my waistband. Okay, next we want to start putting the waistband in. As you can see, we've got quite a severe curve here, and this is the point where you probably want to start throwing it across the room. Anyway, there's a little bit of a knack to doing it because you've got a straight edge for your waistband. You start off by pinning it and making sure on the back of it that your pins line up with the sewing line. That's where you want to pin it. So when you get to this bottom piece here, you want to just pull a little bit to straighten everything out like that. You don't have to pull it a lot. It takes a bit of practice. So once you've pulled it a little bit, it will make it a bit easier for you to pin. Now you can see there I've pinned just below the sewing line, which is a little bit too low. So I just want to bring that up just 2 millimeters. And I've managed to pin it on the sewing line. Again, just give the whole thing a little pull. Again, check your back, and that one's spot on the sewing line, just there, so that's okay. And then just carry on manipulating it to the other side, just giving it a little bit of a pull. When you've sewn your waistband in, it should look like this. Just make sure that you've kept everything flat on the back and front as you sewed along. Okay, next we want to tidy up our waistband and sew in some ties. You need to first cut off all that excess where your pleating was, so you've got a nice tidy edge. Next you want to take the end and just tuck under a little part of it and pull it over to hide that sewing line that you can see just there. You can try and let it meet with the other end like so. Don't sew up the ends. You'll be hand stitching that, catching it to the inside as you go. You want to make sure though that all this is facing upwards and all tucked away inside and flat. After hand tacking the edge of the waistband down to the inside of the skirt, I then want to put my ties on. So this is why you don't seal the ends open. You're going to be inserting, now it can be slightly fiddly and there are probably another way of doing this, but you basically, it's a bit wiggling, there we go. Once you've got your tie securely in there by at least a good centimetre or more, just run some hand sewing over, because this is so bulky now, because it's quite a thick cotton that I've used, that the machine will struggle getting through all that. So basically you just need to hand sew. Again, it will still be quite hard, but if you use a thimble it would help you. And then, sorry, then that's your ties done once you've sewn those in. I might want to go over it a couple of times with your sewing so it makes sure it really anchors it in good. Then when it's finished I'll show you it all done up.